Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and I'm super stoked about today's interview with my amazing guest about body confidence. So who couldn't use some of that? If you're here at the Heal Your Hunger Show for the first time, welcome. I'm so glad you made it. Consider this your home away from home. This is where we talk about the underlying causes of emotional eating and everything pertaining to our experiences as emotional eaters. My experience is we have a personality profile. We as emotional eaters, people who struggle with food and weight chronically, okay, people who can't say no to ooey gooey chewy, that's basically what I'm talking about when I say emotional eating. We have a different experience of life. We've got this internal thing going on, this fight with food, and oftentimes we have experiences in our childhood that set us up as emotional eaters, and that's the stuff we talk about here. That's the stuff we can relate with each other about. In fact, I record a lot of these shows, as I did today, in the Secret Sauce group. So this is a Facebook group where you can go and be with your kind, okay, other emotional eaters. It's called the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating. And just go on Facebook and ask to join, and you can see all that's going on, the conversation that happens, and also my interviews. So this interview actually took place live in the Secret Sauce group. Also, if you're not sure if you're an emotional eater, I highly recommend you take the quiz. I have a quiz on my website that's front and center on the homepage. It's healyourhunger.com. But take the quiz and find out if you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. You'll get a personalized score, and then you'll know based on your level and score what steps you need to take to start your healing journey. So I'm really excited about that. And my guest is amazing. You will absolutely love her. So on with the show. So my guest today is Chardét Ryel, and she's a Brazilian-American wellness entrepreneur and cognitive behavior change specialist. Lots of words there, but she helps women celebrate their bodies, magnify their voices, and live life boldly, which is what we need. Yes. She's a coach and the host of the Feel Good Naked podcast, and she shares a path to well-being beyond the scale and without all the rules. Doesn't that sound like a Heal Your Hunger-ish message? Yes. So welcome, Chardét. So glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be live as well with everyone.
Yes, fantastic. So yeah, I mean, as you know a little bit, Heal Your Hunger is all about non-diet weight loss, weight loss and just feeling good, no matter what weight you're at. And, having been 50 pounds overweight myself, this whole journey of body confidence is that it's a journey. And as I was putting on my makeup this morning, anticipating this interview, I was thinking back to when I was in high school, and I remember hearing about friends who had been at a party and they played strip poker, and they stripped down. Yeah, the people in my high school, they were running way too fast,
wild,
way too fast for this country bumpkin. So I remember hearing that and thinking, first of all, thank God I wasn't there. And then I was thinking, OMG, like I would never do that. Like I don't care how drunk I am not doing that, which is probably not true because I did do some things when I was drunk that I'm not too proud of.
I knew it.
I did take off my clothes when I was drunk for sure. But anyway, man. In the context of a group, I'm like, I don't have the body for that. No way. And I thought back to that and how much body shame I had because I was overweight and had been sexually abused. I just had this shroud of shame. And by the grace of God, that did, on my recovery path, I did lose that, to where I was, so much more comfortable in my skin. But it's a journey for sure. And having had an eating disorder, binge eating disorder, to me, it doesn't totally leave you the body dysmorphia part of having an eating disorder. And to this day, I can get in my head about my weight, and get, and I tell my clients not to weigh themselves. I'm like, look, if you want to have a bad day, just get on the scale,
Oh, that's so
you
true.
know, right? Because it either tells you something you like, and then it gives you an excuse to eat,
Yeah.
and then you go right back to where you started, or it tells you something you don't like, and you're pissed off, and you're like, screw it, and you go eat. So it's like it's skewed against you either way. So anyways, but if I do happen to like go to the doctor and he blurts out my weight, it messes with my head a little bit. So I'm not cured by any means. I have so much more peace than I've ever had, but the little dysmorphic part of me is definitely, it still can creep up. So I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for being here. How did you come upon this work?
So I came about it in a way that I'm not super proud of. And I will say that I'm very transparent about this is that I started in the fitness industry. And as we all know, the fitness industry can be really toxic. So it's very much about your worth as not just a woman, but as a human being is tied to how good do you look.
So
And
true.
it's been that way for over 70 years for women, fitness and diet culture over 70 years. So we're getting the same messaging that our grandmas and great grandmas and mothers got, which is incredible because think about if you use the same cell phone for over 70 years, it would never happen, right? Like there's no
Right.
other area of society where that happens.
Yes.
And in the beginning, I started in that path of helping women with weight loss, talking about how let's get you down in 60 days. And I never did it in a extreme way because at that point I had healed my own body dysmorphia as much as you can, and we can talk a little bit about that because I agree with
Yeah.
you, it lingers. But at that point I had this conflict, this internal conflict because I didn't feel this way anymore. I didn't want to look at numbers. I didn't want people's worth to be based on that. But I was in an industry where if you want sales, that's the messaging you use. And so in the beginning, that's what I would do. How do you get a perky bum, toned arms, all of this stuff? And it just got to be a mental breakdown almost for me because I felt like these are not my values. I don't believe this. I don't want to help. I don't want to make money on women's insecurities. Like that's not for me anymore.
Yeah.
And so like I just slowly transitioned out of that and became a non-diet nutritionist, learned about the actual behavior change that we can do, not just the physical stuff. And I found that so much more rewarding. I mean, the transformations meant a lot more than the physical ones. And I've been doing that ever since. It's almost a decade now, nearly 10 years in April.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love that you took a stand. You're like, enough of this,
Yeah.
it's,
And that
that's what
crap.
it takes, right? One person at
Yeah.
a time, one trainer at a time,
Yeah.
one nutritionist at a time. So good for you. I applaud that. So can you talk about the term body confidence and what that means to you?
Sure. So, body confidence is a comfort in your body that is not tied to your weight. And that's another way where fitness gets us, right? The messaging is if you want body confidence, you lose this amount of weight. But it's not actually that because body image has nothing to do with the way you look, it's the way that you feel. And
Hmm.
you'll know that if you look back in pictures where a lot of us might have been smaller, years ago, and we see these pictures and our body confidence was actually quite low, even though we were a smaller size, because you're
Yes.
constantly comparing, right?
Yes, I have to just interrupt or interject in a moment because I was just talking yesterday with clients about this strange phenomena where we we end up, as emotional eaters who gain weight easily, we end up being like wishing we were the weight we were at when we hated the weight we were at, right? Because it really is it really doesn't matter what weight you're at. It's this internal dissatisfaction with our bodies.
Yeah, it is so much so. And I remember speaking to someone recently about this, that everything we're trying to solve physically is actually emotional problems, right?
Mm,
Like all
yes.
of it. And if you don't address that, and I know that's your work, that's what you do, that's your mission. If you don't address that, then you don't actually ever feel good in your body. So when I say body confidence, it has nothing to do with the way that people actually look. It's everything to do with the way they feel. And in fact, the thing that I try to promote a lot more, because I think it's easier initially for people, is body neutrality. So that's not, you don't necessarily love your body, maybe you don't feel amazing in it, but you respect what it does.
I
And that
love
is
that.
something everyone can do. Everyone can do that.
Yes, I love that. And that's a great place to start because people are feeling so crappy about themselves. They can't even really wrap their head around feeling good or confident about their body, but at least, but the body neutrality, like it's really a truce, right? Like we're calling a truce where we're not fighting our bodies and hating on our bodies. That's a big step right there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about the truth. And I think what you had said when we started was there are still moments, where I feel different in my body, right? Even after all these years, even after the weight's gone, you still have those moments. And it's not about necessarily eradicating them, but it's your response. It's that truth of saying, okay, I can notice this skin fold, but I'm not going to obsess about it. I'm going to let it go. And it's not noticing it, because if you've had decades of dieting and that kind of brainwashing, it's going to take some time, right? And it might be an
Yes.
entire life journey, and that's okay. Like, we don't feel happy every day either. We're not going to necessarily feel confident every day.
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, I love that. And it's baby steps, it's not big Herculean, miles in big milestones. It's really baby steps. So um yeah, so can you talk about a little bit more about how we can change the conversation in our head and how we sort of, because it's going to take intention, right? Because I find that, the critical voice to be sort of, it's a fallback, it's an automatic thing unless we get conscious of how we're talking to ourselves. And so we have to wake up to what that conversation is and change that conversation. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. And you've already identified the most important part, which is the awareness. So becoming aware of it, because if you say, I don't know, you have 10,000 thoughts a day, and if 5,000 of them are about your body, how many of them are you actually aware of? And you don't need to be aware of all 5,000. I know that sounds terrifying. I'm not saying that, but just when you do notice it, to take a moment, I think that's the most important thing. And then it is a introduction of thoughts. And this kind of goes back to the idea of trying to eradicate, trying to stop yourself from doing stuff, restricting your thoughts in the same way you restricted food. It doesn't work. It just is
Yeah.
not, the body doesn't respond to that, the mind doesn't respond to it. So you're not trying to eradicate, you're not trying to avoid, you're going to introduce different thoughts. So
Mm,
if I say something like, this is a very basic example, but if I notice in the mirror, like, oh, it's looking a little bit extra cellulite there. I didn't notice that before. It's not good, right? Which we've all done. Instead, it's saying, okay, it's fine. My body's changing. I'm still healthy. I'm still doing these things. And it seems trivial to say this, but you cannot underestimate it until you try it. The power of saying, but my body's doing this. And that's where, in conjunction with introducing different thoughts, and I can go more into like how to do that. But first, even alongside that, is this idea that you should really introduce some form of movement in your life if you're not already, because that's the way that you appreciate what your body does. In any
mm,
way that you are capable, whether it's a walk, stroll, actual running, it doesn't matter. But if you don't connect with your body in that way and you don't feel your ability, it's very hard to introduce the thought because there's nothing backing it up. So I will always say to people, the best thing you can do right now is find some form of activity that you can do most days. and doesn't
I
matter how long.
love that, Chardét. I love that because our bodies are so amazing and so intelligent. And I'm always amazed at how much our bodies do without our asking, right? Like the pumping of the blood, the oxygen moving through our blood. And it's incredible all the things that our bodies do just thanklessly. Like, wow, imagine if we started noticing and thanking our bodies, and praising our bodies for all the things that it does. And um I love that you're talking about movement because so much of the time emotional eaters are so messed up about exercise because exercise has been a way to compensate for binges, and so it's this very, kind of, it's just a dissonant relationship where we're exercising to punish ourselves. Basically, we're hammering our bodies, into shape, which is not a peaceful experience. And we have to change that, to where we're exercising really to be strong, like to feel our strength and to be strong. And that's why I love gentle exercise, because it's like we're discovering how amazing our bodies are. And so I love that you're talking about this and just really doing something and then acknowledging how amazing our bodies are, that they can do whatever that is.
Yeah. This is exactly what you said. And what you were saying about how it's hard for us to separate diet culture from fitness, that's true. It is really difficult because most of us, myself included, I started running to lose weight, to be thin. I started
Mhm.
exercising for that reason. How good my workout was based on how much I thought it made me lose, how many calories I burned. And
Right.
so there is that transition, and we're fighting decades of history of this because when they started encouraging women to exercise in the 50s and 60s, etc., it was the way that they did it was this is how you look better for your partner, right? This is how you
You're
look
right.
better. So it's decades of this messaging of I exercise to look better. I exercise to look good. And it's only now that we can start to say, oh, I can exercise to feel good, for strength, for mobility, for flexibility, for longevity.
Yes.
And that's hard, but it's time, like we don't exist as women anymore just to be looked at. Like it's time to claim that empowerment. And the first thing you can do is a movement that you actually enjoy, not one that you think will burn calories. And that is the biggest transition, I think, for most people, the biggest transformation.
Yeah. And I love what you just mentioned as well, where we're not just doing it, feel stronger. We're doing it also for us only. Like it's just for us. Like this is a gift we can give to ourselves, and that's a transition in thought as well. It's not for somebody outside or people outside. It's for us only. And I really love, I mean, if other people benefit, great, but it's for us. And I found an exercise that I absolutely love, and people have heard me talk about it before, and it's bar method, which is a bar class. And I love it because it's gentle, and I'm not a big rah person, so I can't do like I don't do a lot of cardio. I should probably do more cardio, but never mind. I'm just going to do what I do. And so and there's a little cardio in it, but what I love the most about it is it's just strength training. Like I'm moving my body. It's gentle. It's meditative. Like it really relieves stress for me, especially because at the end of the class, we're on the floor and that there's a carpet on the floor and you're in your socks, so there's something warm and cozy about it. And so the all of it together, to me is the right tone. It's the right tone. And that's a play on words I didn't intend, but
Very clever.
so being punny, why not? So but I am toning my body, but in a gentle way and kind of in a cumulative way where I'm just building day after day strength in my muscles. But boy, it feels so good. And I love that it's for me. Like it's for me. And I love feeling my strong body. I love appreciating the strength in my body. So I highly recommend not only that kind of exercise, but some exercise that's gentle and not harsh, that helps you just do exactly what Chardét is talking about, which is like appreciate your strength.
Yeah, and bar is incredible. I love that you mentioned bar because I taught that for 5 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I enjoy it so much because it is what you say, it's time for you. It is difficult, but it's not necessarily high intensity, high impact.
Yeah.
And bar is one of those things like Pilates where you really appreciate how much you get besides the physical. Like it is physical, but you notice how high can I lift my legs, how I don't have pain in my lower back, like how strong
Yeah.
my core is. And
Yep.
those kind of workouts are incredible. They really remind you of the power of your body and the power of you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool that you taught that. And I also love that it's a class with women. I mean, men can go, but they don't. They're just not strong enough,
They don't
frankly.
come
They're just,
back the second
they're
time, is
yeah,
what
they're just too
happens.
wimpy. So it's mostly women in the class, and I really love that it is with other women, in part because I won't do it if it's not. Like, I'm a community person. So when the pandemic happened, they started doing the classes on Instagram. They still do them on Instagram, but at home alone, forget about it. Like, I lasted like 15 minutes, and I'm like, I'm good. So, to do hard stuff, I need community. I need other people. I need a little bit of, boy, am I going to be embarrassed if I just quit right now. So there's a lot to be said. I do all my work, with my clients and community as well, because I think that it just gives us the extra support we need to do hard things,
Yeah.
because bars is hard. And so, and I just love that. So that benefits me a lot. And I'll just say, this is not a commercial for a bar class, but
People
I
might be
do,
confused.
but I do like too that there are teachers who kind of spot you and notice if you're not doing it right, or if you're kind of like not lifting your leg in the right way. I love that because I need it. Like, I want to make sure I'm doing it right. I'm supporting my body correctly. I don't want to make the wrong move and hurt
Yeah.
myself. So the fact that there's somebody there is constantly scanning the room to see where there's might be an alignment out, like not quite right. To me, again, it's so gentle. It's so nice that I'm getting that kind of support. So the whole thing, it's like a physical, emotional, and spiritual experience.
Yeah, but touches on an important point too, which is kind of another segment of diet culture and fitness where we think that the job of a trainer or an instructor is to make sure we don't stop or to make sure we go harder. But a huge part of it is actually, am I doing it properly? Is my technique there? Am
Yes.
I stopping when my body's starting to fail and my form is going south? That's more important than
Yes.
pushing through. Way more important. So I love that you mentioned, yeah, I'm a big
Yeah,
fan of
it
bar
is.
over here too.
Yeah. It feels sweet. And we just, we have spent so many years beating ourselves up and being harsh and being against ourselves, being in conflict with ourselves. And part of that truce we were talking about is, choosing and giving ourselves the opportunity to be cared for and supported, as a new era in exercise. So super cool. Anything that you want to mention around nutrition? Because I know you're, a nutritionist, and anything that can be helpful for people listening.
Yeah, so for the biggest thing with non-diet nutrition or gentle nutrition, right, is this idea around personalization. So a lot of what's out there in diets is kind of a one recipe for losing weight. And it's incredible if you think about it because we don't all consume calories the same way. Even if we have the exact same meal plan, we absorb them differently. Our gut health is different. All of these, our exercise levels are different. So the idea that one plan could satisfy multiple people is just absurd. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
saying one dress fits everyone. It doesn't.
Right.
So the big thing with that is when you do non-diet nutrition, it's one, is it personalized? So are you choosing foods for you, how they make you feel, how they make your body feel? And this can go deep into things like not just does it give me energy, is it easy to digest for me? Do I not experience inflammation, all of these physical symptoms, but also does it satisfy me in a non nutritional way? And I think that's a part we often forget, because for me personally, I don't really care about cookies, for example. I could go my whole life and not have them. But for someone else, that's a nostalgia piece that matters to them, and they want to have that in their lives. So even though that's not technically a diet or on your nutrition, it's important to you because it's a part of satiety. It makes you feel satisfied mentally, psychologically. And when you're satisfied at that level, you can manage your body way easier. So those are the biggest tenets, would be how does it feel physically in your body, but also mentally and psychologically. And the smaller piece, which I think gets blown out of proportion, and this is why I say it last, because I don't want people to focus on it first, is nutrient density. So it's looking at foods in the sense of what will give me the most energy, the most vitamins, the most minerals, and what I eat. But that needs to be balanced out with the other two. It's very important, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, that's beautiful. Thank you. And thanks for coming here, with you're so beautiful, physically you're just very beautiful, but energetically you're very beautiful as well. And your energy is very beautiful. And so thank you for being here with us here on the Heal Your Hunger show. And I like to ask my guests one final question. And that is, because it's the Heal Your Hunger show, can you tell us, and I'll give you a second to think about it, but tell us what your deepest hunger is.
Ooh, I am going to take a second if it's okay, because this is a
course,
question I have never got.
I'm sure.
I think my biggest hunger, the biggest desire, if I'm translating it that way, that I have is to actually be comfortable with stillness, because that's kind of the biggest indicator of your psychological and emotional health. How comfortable are you with stillness, with not having activity, with things not necessarily progressing, but maybe being stagnant, maybe your body's not changing, all of this. Like, that is my biggest goal, is to be comfortable with that. And I think I have found it on the body end, but I still struggle with it mentally.
Wow, I love that. Well, you'd never gotten that question before, and I've never gotten that answer before. So there you go. 400 episodes, we've never had that answer. I love that answer, and that's so aligned with Heal Your Hunger, because, my experience is that in order to heal our hunger, we have to feel our hunger. In order to feel our hunger, we got to slow down. Slow down and stop stuffing ourselves with information, with activity, with, going here and there and everywhere. And so, and I teach my clients to meditate as well, because, it's so important and on every level, right? Spiritual, mental, and emotional and physical. And so, I find that that's in that stillness, in sitting down and being quiet, there is so much to learn, right? There's so much to learn about ourselves. And I think it's an ongoing thing. So you're definitely on track in terms of, acclimating, but it's an ongoing journey of learning to be with ourselves and our thoughts and with stillness, but it's juicy for sure. So I love that that's your deepest hunger. That's just beautiful. So, and everybody, this beautiful woman has a podcast that you definitely should tune into, called the Feel Good Naked podcast. So, Chardét, thank you so much for being with us. It's been such a pleasure. And those of you in our secret sauce group, be sure to comment and even ask questions, and maybe Chardét can answer them in the chat. So, but thank you so much for being with us. It's been such a lovely moment with you.
Thank you so much. I really, really have loved the conversation.
Me too. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.